Hey, welcome back to the NOTCAST. It's been about a week since the last one, and it's number 360. Oh, let me quick check. 366. So it is the 10th of March, 1990. No, actually, it isn't 10th of March, 1990. It's 10th of March, 2024. And today, I'm going to be talking about an album that changed many people's lives, not necessarily mine, but did come out in a very formative year for me. That album is the second studio record by power pop rock trio Nirvana, released on the 24th of September 1991. And in order to kind of talk about this record and what it's done to people and how much it means, I also have to talk about what else was happening in 1991. And the observant of you will notice I am wearing a Wonder Stuff t-shirt, a band that were popular in 1991. I have to put a frame around the year for those of you, and some of you, of course, aren't my age and may not have remembered or experienced 1991. So I have to set the scene with records that came out that year. There were a lot of great records released that year. There are a lot of awful ones released that year. I am not going to show you copies of the awful ones. I am, however, going to show you everything that came out in 1991 that I think I own. And these are just the albums, by the way. So Jesus Jones's Doubt, with their American #1 hit single right here, right now. Carter USM's 30-something. Morris's Kill Uncle, which I talked about recently. REM's Out of Time. I've done one of those. That was a good album. The KLF's White Room. Ned's Atomic Dustbin's Godfather, by the way. I love Ned's Atomic Dustbin. I just haven't talked about them on here. The Orbs, Adventures Beyond the Ultra World. Kraftwerk's The Mix. I think they're great. Susie and the Banshees, Superstition. These are broadly, by the way, in the order of the year in which they came out. And then the Wonder Stuff's Never Loved Elvis. Electronics debut record. The Wedding Presents, Sea Monsters. These all came out on the same day, by the way. And then also Erasure's Chorus. Therapy's Baby Teeth. Another amazing rock trio. Slowdive's Just for a Day. This is the original Creation edition, probably worth a gazillion quid on Discogs. Not that I look at that. Knights of Reb Zebhead. David Bowie's Tin Machine 2, which, yes, I have bought out of loyalty because I am that kind of guy. And then also that year we had quite a few other albums by other acts. Queen's Innuendo, Front 242's Tyranny for You, Orbital's Green, Massive Attack's Blue Lines, The Cult's Wretched Ceremony. I was a loyalist. I bought this. This is awful. Sorry, guys. It just isn't. Smashing Pumpkins' Gish, Mr. Bungle, Pixies' Trompe Le Monde, Soundgarden's Bad Motorfinger, My Bloody Valentine's Loveless. It was a period of time when a lot of great stuff came out in a short period of time, and a lot of absolute tosh came out. I mean, one of the biggest selling singles of that year, or one of the biggest selling albums, was Michael Jackson's Invincible. And there was a sense to me, because I turned 18 that year in 1991, that the cliche is that your favourite year for music will be the year that you turned 18, because that will be the year where you stepped into a kind of form of adulthood. And now one could argue I'm not an adult, I'm still just a 15-year-old driving a 50-year-old's body. But the other kind of angle is when you're 18, you're discovering all of these bands, all of this music, computers, games, films, books, television, all of that stuff. And you're looking at all of that stuff and kind of going, there's this amazing world that now makes sense to me. So for me, for example, art, music, culture, those were the things that gave my life meaning. And as I've said before, an earth without art is just which rings so true to me, because it was the thing that helped me make sense of the world that was around me. And there was good and there was bad in 1991. There was lots of it. We had the absolute dreck of hair rock, bands like, I don't know, Cherry Pie or Warrant or whatever they are. And you had these weird poodle rockers that just looked awful. There was a complete generation that had been brought up in a culture that didn't speak to them at all. Now, to misquote the Smiths' Panic about, it says nothing to me about my life. There was a generation that was exhausted by the nothingness of culture that surrounded them. Dire Straits, Phil Collins, Motley Crue, Warrant, MTV, Cherry Pie. music that we just listened to and went, this has nothing to do with the world we live in. You know, we have no relationship to Money for Nothing, Chicks for Free, Susa Studios, whatever the fuck those are, Girls, who, by the way, Motley Crue were really just LA's answer to Oasis. Songs about, you know, look so good it makes a grown man. All of that was meaningless. It was nothing. You know, for the vast majority of people that I knew, growing up in a suburban British town, you know, we were sat there going, well, we haven't got very much money, we haven't got very much access to culture. All the films tell us about America. None of the music talks to me about the world that I live in. There were bits of music that did, you know, Wonder Stuff and Wedding Present and things like that. But the vast majority of music that was in the charts was just, you know, music that was designed to separate children from their pocket money or to separate dads from their bonuses. And I was just looking at it and going, where's the songs that talk about the fall of Russia, about the crisis of capitalism, about living under a decade of right-wing oppression and inequality, about living in a world of you know, Reagan and Bush and Thatcher and poll tax riots and miners' strikes and Falklands War, and where is all of that? And there was none of that was in any of the culture which was surrounding us in 1991. And then Nirvana came in, and it was like they were fighting the sound of nothingness, and kind of articulating, perhaps not using language, a rage against the void of bland conformity, which what was happening. Now, of course, 33 years afterwards, a band could claim to have been co-opted and to be turned into the mainstream. And I'm not going to pretend that Nirvana are now a, you know, weird cult band. They're not. They sold 30 million copies. And Nevermind, it's one of the biggest selling albums of all time. But at the time it was pressed and at the time it was released, Geffen Records had signed them really on the back of Sonic Youth and thought, well, if we're really lucky, Nirvana will sell 50,000 copies and Sonic Youth will sell 250,000. I mean, obviously, how wrong they were. And you know, think about what was happening around about the same time. So there was a 6-week period at the end of 1991 when lots of amazing records came out that completely changed the face of the world. It was not Prince's Diamonds and Pearls, which came out in November 1991. So just think about what came out in that period of time. You had Guns N' Roses' Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, basically the rock equivalent of a Folly. You had Metallica's Black Album, None More Black, U2, Achtung Baby. And Achtung Baby was the record that to me, for U2, I got bored of U2's being bland and hectoring and you know, very sincere guys in hats. So to have a record from U2 that had depth and artifice and humour was absolutely fantastic. At the same time, we had teenage fan clubs, Bandwagon-esque. You had Talk Talk's magnificent Laughing Stock, Pixies' Trompe Le Monde, Bad Motorfinger by the Soundgardens, and of course My Bloody Valentine and Loveless and Primal Scream's Screamadelica. So you had all these records that were coming out, and it felt to me that there was a change in the direction, the equivalent, culturally speaking, of the change that happened when punk happened in 1977. There almost had to be a great cultural reset to reflect the new decade. Most decades don't start until a year or two in. You know, you can very clearly look at the beginning of the 2020s and go, COVID was the thing that characterized the beginning of 2020, this decade we're living in now. For me, the Nevermind revolution was the moment where suddenly the people that had been, in my opinion, kind of like sidelined by culture, silenced by culture, not articulated by culture, and were able to finally give voice to their unheard roar. Even though the lyrics to Nevermind aren't exactly specific about what on earth they're about a lot of the time. There was an authenticity that sat in that you wouldn't get with Phil Collins hammering out yet another fucking drum solo with Genesis while singing a song about American preachers or you know, Dire Straits singing about the radio. And it was in the offing. You could sense that there was something coming. Certainly in the summer of 1991, whilst I was vastly infused by the music that was going on around me, and you know, in terms of record releases, fabulous and expensive summer. At the same point, I had a huge sense of dissatisfaction with the world, and there was something which was bubbling under, which was just about to reach out and touch the world and articulate that sense. In order to kind of go that, we have to do a little bit of history around the period leading up to and around the release of Nevermind, and to kind of explain just how different it was. So the band started recording. They first did Polly as a Peel session in December 1989, which is on the Nevermind album. I'm sure you know that. And then went into Reciprocal Studio with Jack Endino on the 2nd and 3rd of January 1990, starting the decade with recording. And I think really that's where the first shoots and roots of Nevermind happened. Then on the 2nd to the 6th of April 1990, they recorded at Smart Studios with Butch Vig, and they did the Nevermind demos with Chad on drums. These were heavily bootlegged on releases like Grunge Is Dead, which saw, and this one, for example, featured Dive, Lithium, Sappy, Polly, In Bloom, Breed, and Stay Away, which was then known as Pay to Play. Some of those recordings also appeared, like for example, the version of Dive appeared on the Sliver single, and all of them, apart from I think Dive, were released on the the 20th anniversary 2011 edition of Nevermind. Here, the Smart Studio sessions. This features In Bloom, Imodium, which is Breed, Lithium, Polly, Pay to Play, Here She Comes Now, Dive, and Sappy. And I think the version of Polly that's on this is actually the same version that appeared in a remixed form on the Nevermind album itself. We then had on the second disc some boombox rehearsals recorded, this time with Dave Grohl on drums. Chad Channing left the group, frustrated I think with the direction of songwriting and the contribution that he was able to make it. I mean, realistically, Chad's a very good drummer, but he's no Dave Grohl. He was operating probably at the limits of what he was able to do, which was just within the boundaries of where Nirvana wanted to go, I think it's fair to say. And Dan Peters, who I think was in Mudhoney, played one show. He played drums on Sliver, which he recorded in 90 minutes with the band, and then did some recording with Jack Endino again at Reciprocal Studios on the 11th and 24th of July 1990. In August 1990, Dale Crover, who I think was in the Melvins, I think I've seen him play drums in Tomahawk, fantastic drummer, played drums with the band. And then on the 25th of September, Dave Grohl joined Nirvana. And this is the moment where I think the lineup coalesced. Sometimes what you take away and what you add is as important as what you don't have. And the first show, 11th of October 1990, was the moment where I think Nirvana really debuted their final form. There was a BBC session on the 21st of October 1990 where the band recorded a set of cover versions, most of which were used for B-sides, and they appeared, or the 4 tracks from that session appeared on this Hormoning, a Japanese and Australian CD EP released to exploit the success and demand of Nevermind. The recording of Nevermind took place quite an unusual time. They started again on the 1st of January 1991, and on the 1st of January they recorded Even in His Youth, Aneurysm, On a Plane, and a song called All Apologies, which later appeared on the In Utero album. And on the 30th of April, armed with those songs and with the 8 songs on the demo tape, they signed a deal with Geffen for $287,000 plus merch royalties. Sub Pop got 2% of the royalties from the sales of Nevermind and In Utero, which, given that Nevermind sold 30 million copies, is an equivalent of effectively saving that particular company. And they signed to Geffen for 2 reasons, I think. Firstly, Sub Pop was chaotically managed financially, and they were fed up of things like bouncing checks, running out of money, not having enough money to pay rent on various things, or having to juggle creditors, and living off packs of chips and 99p hot dogs and stuff. And the other one was they'd been recommended by Sonic Youth, who liked them a lot. Sonic Youth signed to Geffen, and as I said earlier, Sonic Youth were tipped to be the next big thing. And after that, then Nirvana would be, maybe a bonus or something else. But it worked both ways, and ultimately Nirvana became the cash cow, which Sonic Youth kind of benefited from. Oh, this is where you can see I do actually take drinks. Watch. That was exciting, wasn't it? No, it wasn't. on the 2nd to the 28th of May 1991 at Sound City Studios, where they'd recorded the demos with Chad Channing about a year before. The band went into the studio and recorded a huge chunk of material that started to become the bones of Nevermind. Sound City Studio was also chosen because you think about some of the songs that were in there. So the Jacksons, Foreigner, Cheap Trick. It was a classic rock studio. If you wanted to get the classic rock sound, that was where you went. And they decided that that was where they wanted, because what they wanted to do was to create an album. And as Kurt was very clear about it, is that he said Nirvana had one shot. They didn't want to screw it up. They wanted to be serious. Kurt said, we want to be the biggest band in the world, and that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to make a great record, because I think one of the great things about art is that it has to communicate directly with people, shared emotions, feelings and ideas. If your audience is limited, it's not that your art is a failure, but that the effort is perhaps disproportionate to the effect that it's had. Whereas this one, obviously, the huge amount of impact that it had and the reach that it had meant that it clearly touched a chord with somebody. And one of the things about listening to records, and I mean, I joke about my record collection being an emotional support record collection, is that these records are my friends, and you know, especially Acton Baby. You know, when people didn't stay in my life, when relationships ended or friendships fell apart or working relationships happened, the records were always there, and they spoke to me, especially records like Disintegration, and made me feel less alone in this world, because I thought, surely I must be the only person that's ever felt this desolate or this blissful or whatever it is. And then you listen to the record and you go, no, it's not just me, is it? This is a uniform human condition. There is a comfort in being sad, and there's a comfort in knowing that it's not just me who's experienced these things. And that is, I think, where this record was successful. It spoke to people in a language that perhaps a lot of records hadn't really spoken to people before. So after the album was effectively finished on the 28th of May, the band went to the studio, more correctly not the studio, they played 9 live shows. Kurt was evicted from his flat because they didn't have any money, for example, and then they went and mastered the album on the 2nd of August. So Andy Wallace remixed some of the tracks on it. He'd remixed Madonna, he'd mixed Slayer, he'd mixed Faith No More. Amazing bands. Well, maybe not Madonna, but Slayer and Faith No More definitely are. And gave that sound the crunch and the visceral kind of buzzsaw edge, which really kind of cut through everything. You listen to, like, you know, it was played on the MTV Friday Rock Show, for example, or the Headbangers Ball. And you listen to some of the other stuff that was on the Headbangers Ball. Now, I'm going to say a terrible thing about Def Leppard, who I like, but I'm not a huge fan of, is material like Def Leppard is effectively pop music with guitars. You know, a song like Have You Ever Needed Someone So Bad could be an NSYNC song, I guess. Well, maybe worse than NSYNC, maybe, I don't know, early Take That. Whereas something like Smells Like Teen Spirit, despite being covered by Take That on the Nobody Else the Movie 1995 sell-through VHS, would never have written a song as good as Smells Like Teen Spirit. And I said, that is a hill I will die on. It is a small hill, nobody cares about it, but that's a hill I will die on. On the 20th of August, the album was finished, it was sent to pressing plants, and there was a buzz coming up that something big was going to happen. The band started playing European shows starting on the 20th of August. They played small pubs, 200, 300 people, places like Dolan's, you know, a back room in Edinburgh somewhere, you know, those type of things. And they played the Reading Festival, parts of which appear on the sell-through VHS, the year that punk rock broke. I have the Reading Festival on a bootleg LP, which I bought in 1992 for £5 whole. I looked this up on Discogs, about 70 quid. It's not worth 70 quid. This is an audience recording of not even the full show. But this was the show where, when my friends came back from the Reading Festival, you know, Carter, Ned's Sisters of Mercy were playing. So, you know, and they were like, Nirvana, incredible, blew everybody off stage. I don't remember who was on after Nirvana. I think it was Chapter House, which of course, that can only disappoint you after that. But the rumour was they had these amazing new songs and they were going to take over the world. And of course, this was recorded on I think the 24th of August 1991. 1 month later, 24th of September 1991, Nevermind was released, and it changed the world completely. On the European tour, the band played a whole bunch of shows, mostly festivals, in the middle of the afternoon, to crowds that just got bigger and bigger. The word spread. So it wasn't the case that somebody with a camera phone could film Smells Like Teen Spirit, put it on YouTube, and everyone could watch it in advance and go, oh my God, what an incredible song. No, you heard about it because someone said they played this song called Denial, and it's brilliant. And suddenly you were like, wow, I'm going to have to hear this, aren't I? I'm really going to have to hear this. I'm going to have to see how good this band is and what they're up to. On the 3rd of September, they played a John Peel session, the second John Peel session, and this time they played Dumb, Drain You, and Endless Nameless. So they weren't even playing to their strengths. But on the 10th of September, everything changed. And everything changed because they released the single Smells Like Teen Spirit. Now, this is a song that when I first heard it, and I'm not sure where I first heard it, but when I first heard it, I was blown away by how good it was. You know, the line about load up on drugs and kill your friends, and then suddenly you kind of go, wow, they're not taking prisoners, are they? That's not a song about, oh, I love you, baby, you love me, don't leave me, etc. It's a song where suddenly it's kind of like trailing a laser-focused eye in a series of non sequiturs. What appeared to be, certainly from my adolescent perspective as an 18-year-old, the rampant hypocrisy and unfairness of the society in which I lived, and the point that life is short and love is always over in the morning. Now, I did have Smells Like Teen Spirit on 7-inch. I don't have it now, and I don't have it now because I think it got stolen, which does happen, but I know who did it, and you're a cow. This is the UK CD single of Smells Like Teen Spirit. This is backed with Even in His Youth and Aneurysm, two amazing songs that should have been on the album, but then the album would have been 14 songs long. And it's just at the point where even the B-sides are that good, you kind of go, wow, what an incredible band this are, where the B-sides are that amazing. So it was first played, at least first heard, on I think MTV's Headbangers Ball and Friday Rock Show and stuff like that, and I heard lots and lots of rumours about it. I think I probably first heard it at Edward's Number 8 upstairs, or maybe downstairs actually, at the now defunct rock club that burnt down because it was refused planning permission to be converted into luxury urban living, and it burnt down, and lo and behold, the site that was Edward's Number 8 is now luxury urban living. So the greatest accelerant for denied planning permission is, of course, a fire, or perhaps the greatest risk to any building that may cause a fire. The greatest cause of fire is denied planning permission. I could not possibly comment, but there we are. But Smells Like Teen Spirit, I think I first heard that in Edwards, and it was Edwards was a place where downstairs they played the rock, upstairs they played the indie and the industrial, and depending upon what section of the indie they'd go to, I'd go downstairs, and somehow the two DJs, and I think one of them was Steve Gerrard, they had almost like an understanding that at like 10:45 or 11:45, maybe upstairs would play The Farm and the Happy Mondays, maybe downstairs would go towards Faith No More and 9 Inch Nails and stuff like that, and you go, yep, and then you try and time it so that you went downstairs just as the baggy started and just after the Red Hot Chili Peppers had finished, so you could keep you high. And then after about 3 or 4 songs, and then if you finish playing that, then it'd start to lean towards some of the more classic rock stuff, and you'd kind of go, okay, out come the denim vests and the long hair and the battle jackets, and go, right, now it's time to go upstairs, and hopefully they've eased out through the baggy stuff and maybe starting to lean towards the more indie stuff, the more, like, so you got James maybe would be at right end of that, and then kind of go, right, so now you're going to go for Ned's, Poppies, maybe a bit of Beastie Boys, maybe Jesus Jones, that type of stuff. And I remember, I think I first heard Smells Like Teen Spirit and I didn't even know what it was, but I was like, this is incredible. This is a moment where you suddenly know that nothing is ever going to be the same again. The first time I heard Smells Like Teen Spirit, I was like, this song will change the world. And apparently, when the band first played it live in 17th of April, 1991, that was apparently the reaction, is that these kids just went, so Kurt was like, here's a new song, boom, and then suddenly everything had changed enormously, and suddenly they were like, that's the song. That's the song, the gif of Leonardo DiCaprio in Django Unchained going, there, that's it, that's the thing. Well, it's not Django Unchained, actually. It's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But there you are. And so there was that 2-week gap when all we really knew was Smells Like Teen Spirit. It was everywhere. It was on TV. It was on radio. It was on MTV. And there was this buzz around it, and the tour that the band had booked to play the UK after the release of the album, which was small places, the Wolverhampton Wolverine, for example, 800 people, it sold out within like 2 days. And then they added extra dates, and they moved to the Birmingham Hummingbird, which is 2,600 people. That sold out like that as well. And again, because I didn't live in Birmingham at the time, I lived in Leicester, it sold out before I had a chance to get tickets. So I had the situation where I never saw Nirvana, even though I had tickets to see them on 2 occasions. And I'm frustrated about that, but there's nothing that I can do about it now, obviously. So when they played the UK, for example, the venue sold out super quickly, and the 50,000 copies of Nevermind just evaporated from the stores. So they had the vinyl edition, which is here, of Nevermind. Again, vinyl wasn't really selling a huge amount of copies, so 50,000 they'd probably go. And this, by the way, is I think the US number is 50,000, maybe 10,000 in the UK, and they go, well, we'll do 5,000 CDs and 2,000 vinyl and 3,000 cassettes. And there were periods of time when you just could not get a copy of Nevermind for love nor money, because the pressing plants had to pivot away from Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 to suddenly up the numbers. And there were like record stores that had lists of people that said, give us a call when it comes in, I'm going to buy it. And they put massive orders in, and suddenly there would just be a gap. Now, the idea is, in these days, nobody would ever be in a situation like that. But it wasn't, though, these days. It was those days. And then was Rotten Days. And, my first copy of Nevermind was a tape I got off a kid at uni who bought it, he'd buy like Sonic Youth Pixies, etc. He did me a tape, and since he had working television and I didn't, I'd go over to his house and we'd watch Top of the Pops. And I remember watching Smells Like Teen Spirit on Top of the Pops, which I think was 6th of December. I could be wrong. And he'd lost his voice. And I was like thinking, I should be seeing Nirvana this night, because the night that Nirvana were due to play Leicester Polytechnic, they cancelled because he lost his voice, and they television instead, which was frustrating. But I understand why they did it, because otherwise there'd just be a bootleg tape of them playing Leicester Polytechnic. Of course, I needed the money, so I got the money back for a refund. I think I got about £7.50. Wish I kept the ticket, but I really needed the £7.50 in 1991. And the US shows just exploded all of a sudden. So they'd committed to playing smaller shows, small clubs. They did 2 shows a night. They did support slots. And everyone was like, this band should be playing much, much bigger places. Absolutely. So the cultural impact of this band, this album, cannot be overstated. It was like a human, like rock panzer that just swept away everything in front of it, like a battering ram, and showed it up for the shallow artifice that it was. All these spandex wankers with long hair doing songs about how your friend's invited but you can't come, etc. Were just shown out to be just flippant, silly, idiotic man boys who were singing songs about nothing that meant nothing to nobody. And were just made obsolete pretty much overnight. Kind of like every once in a while a film comes along and it just changes the shape of the world, or a book, or a politician, and you suddenly go, that's what the world needed. It's like there are times in history when culture or politics or books or whatever kind of focus upon a thing, and they kind of stick to the thing, and the world changes around it, but the thing is unchanging in the middle, whatever the object is. And then suddenly something else comes along and everybody realizes that's what we've been thinking, that's what we've been waiting for. Nevermind did that, right down to the object of the naked male in the swimming pool chasing a dollar bill, the idea of human innocence being corrupted by money. I don't even know, and it's only a $1 bill, for God's sake. It's not a pretty it's not even a big denomination, but it's an iconic image that just encapsulated and communicated the idea around the fish hook of money, the temptation and corruption of money and capitalism destroying person's innocence. And then the idea was going, never mind, no big deal. Found it hard to find whatever, never mind. And it is just an album that completely just changed the universe in many, many ways. It basically killed rock, made bands like Great White instantly redundant and obsolete. You know, Nirvana was a machine gun in a world of arrows and you know, blunderbusses. And they changed the world completely for me culturally and many other people. So the songs on the album, there are 12 songs on the album. I've already mentioned Smells Like Teen Spirit, which, by the way, it takes its name from a deodorant used by Toby, who was Kurt's then girlfriend. It was originally, by the way, Smells Like Teen Spirit was originally entitled Anthem, but it had its title changed because Bikini Kill had a song called Anthem. Otherwise, you'd be going about Anthem, but they knew what it was. They knew how powerful it was. And the video itself as well kind of took the cliches of rock videos and smashed them to pieces. So the video was inspired by a film called Over the Edge. It was also inspired by the Ramones Rock and Roll High School film, which I have on DVD up there. And the idea being is that, you know, these people who would be playing rock music in a school were suddenly turned into people that were looking at the conventions of the society and going, no, I won't accept this. I won't be the person that you want me to be. I won't follow the life that results in 2.4 children, a car, and being, you know, no disrespect to photocopier salesmen. I know a couple of them, they're lovely people. But, you know, being a photocopier salesman or something, or a telephone sanitizer, a Golga Frincham on Arc B, in Douglas's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and suddenly kind of smashed that idea and went, you deserve more than this. You can set your own boundaries. And that's what Nevermind was to lots of us. It was the sound of the conformity that we'd been spoon-fed being smashed to pieces by imagination and idealism. That sounds very, very hyperbolic, but that's exactly the effect it had. It was the equivalent of, from a rock perspective, that film of the train coming towards the screen and people running away, thinking that the train was going to come through the screen because it was so different and so new. Smells Like Teen Spirit changed the world. And I'm not going to pretend that it didn't. You know, it completely revolutionised the rock format. And then the rest of the album, of course, occurred. Track 2 is In Bloom, I think. Yeah, In Bloom, which was originally recorded in 1990 for Sub Pop. It was released, the Sub Pop version was released on this in audio format. The Sub Pop version, again with Chout on drums, was also released on the DVD that comes in the With the Lights Out box set that was released in 2004. And it's the fourth song from the album, the Dave Grohl version of With Bloom. Here is the CD single, because I was buying CD singles in those days. Actually, this is the Nirvana singles box set, which I bought afterwards. But there's the In Bloom CD single that's backed with live versions of Sliver and Polly. And I think these versions of Sliver and Polly, and let me just quickly check, were recorded at the Del Mar Pavilion on the 28th of December 1991. That whole show, as recorded, is released on the 30th anniversary box set of Nevermind, which we will get to later on in this episode. So In Bloom, a fabulous song, and it has a biting and cutting chorus. He knows the songs and he likes to sing along because they're such pretty songs, but he doesn't know the words and he doesn't know what it means. And again, without really realising it, I think perhaps Nirvana and Kurt were suddenly kind of latching onto the idea of being popular and famous without people really fully truly grasping the meaning of what they were doing. It happens to this day when David Cameron said that his favourite Jam song was Eaton Rifles, or when Johnny Marr says to David Cameron that, you know, you are not allowed to be a Smiths fan because you don't understand the band. And I kind of go, right, yeah, absolutely, because sometimes people listen to music and what the music is about and what it means just goes straight over their heads, and they just go, oh, it's a nice tune, I like that, yeah, that's fine. And obviously for some people music is entertainment, and for other people music is a lifeline that changes their universe, and it's really, really important to understand that that's what it is. I have a theory about charity shops and bands, and there's a difference between bands people like and bands that people love. And bands that people like, you will see their CDs in charity shops. So I'm going to pick a CD out at random, well, not really random, but here it is, Kylie's Fever from 2002. Great pop record. You see it a lot in charity shops because people that bought Kylie CDs, especially in 2002, they liked Kylie, they didn't love Kylie, they weren't in it for the long run. And over time, and with the rise of streaming, they suddenly thought, well, if I want to listen to Love at First Sight, or Spinning Around, or Can't Get You Out of My Head, I can go onto Spotify. The people that bought albums like Nevermind, Metallica's Black Album, Master of Puppets, those are not CDs you see in charity shops. Those are CDs that once they go into someone's collection, they stay there forever, because those aren't songs people like, they're songs people love. They become parts of people's identities. And that's why Nevermind is a record you very rarely see in charity shops because people just go, it really means something to me as a listener, and I know the words and I know what it means. And so In Bloom, fourth single from the album, but again, a classic. It would be the first single from lots of people's albums, but for Nirvana it was number 4. The second single and the third track on the album is Come As You Are. Here is the CD single from the UK in a digipack, backed with Endless Nameless, and also School and Drain You live again at the Paramount Theatre in Seattle. The full version of that live show was released later on. And Come As You Are, I mean, obviously it's a little bit of a cheeky cover, but yes, that is what appears to be an artistic representation of Seaman. So Come As You Are indeed. Naughty, naughty Kurt, you dirty little hound dog. And here's the reissue version in the jewel case that's from the singles box set, that again features those 4 songs on there. I wasn't buying 12 inches at the time because I lived in a small flat in Leicester. I had a limited budget. I buy the CD singles when the songs would fall out of the charts. That's how I built my record collection: second-hand copies and versions that fell out of the charts. Track 4 on Nevermind. Let me get my copy of Nevermind back up here for you. Track 4 is Breed, and I think Breed's a great song. They're all great songs, actually. If I had to take one song off here, I'm not sure I could. Maybe Lounge Act, I guess. But since, as you know, I'm a big lyrics guy, I can't really talk about the lyrics on a lot of these songs. The reason I can't talk about the lyrics on the songs is because it isn't linear songwriting. It's not things where there are communicating ideas in the sets of 3 verses that tell a story, or perhaps communicate a narrative or a set of concepts or a set of ideas. It's about a flow of images. It's like a koyaanisqatsi of lyrics where there's simple, almost nursery rhyme style kind of rhyming, but it's just fragments of images, moments which flow past you, and then you kind of think, no, I don't have a gun, come as you are, as you were, as I want you to be. He likes all the pretty songs, stay away, all that type of stuff. Every song, I don't think of Nevermind as having lyrics, if that makes sense. I think of Nevermind as being an album of impressionistic snapshots of moments in time that create a collage, like the end of 2001, koyaanisqatsi, maybe the last few minutes of the film Babylon, where everything kind of comes together in a way that creates a more cohesive overall whole. Even a line like It's Okay to Kill Fish Because They Don't Have Any Feelings, that's probably about the only bit of that song, something in the way where you'd listen to it and go, okay, there's 2 songs which have, I think, definitive lyrics which really do tell a story. Lithium, again, 3rd single from the album, is not that. The song that tells the story most obviously is Polly. Polly was originally recorded in a traditional rock 4/4 format. On this version of the album, on every version of the album, and by the way, this is the recording on Polly, which was remixed, which was recorded in April 1990. It's the only song on Nevermind that Chad plays drums, and he doesn't really play drums because he just hits cymbals occasionally. It's about a real-life newspaper article that Kurt read about a woman that had been attacked after a show, and decided that and whilst she was being attacked and assaulted during the show, or after the show, decided to turn the power imbalance onto the attacker. So it started talking to the attacker like they were a human being, and saw their attacker and assaulter as a person, and not themselves as a victim, not shouting, get me off, but are you okay? What's going wrong? Tell me what's happening. And the song is then written from the point of view of the attacker, thinking about, Polly wants a crack and maybe she's as bored as me, and talking about from the imagined perspective of the attacker as they become humanized in the eyes of their victim. And then suddenly, apparently in the newspaper article, the attacker stopped and started crying and stopped the attack. And then it's like, sit and go, fucking hell, that wow, which kind of explains the note that's in the Incesticide album, where Kurt says about people that are sexist, asshole, jocks, etc., don't come to our show and don't buy our records. Lithium, track 5. I've jumped ahead 1 track. Lithium, track 5, the 3rd single from the album. released mid-1992, backed with a version of Being a Sun, which is live. Let me just check where that was recorded. Paramount Theatre, Seattle. There you go. And a track called Curmudgeon. And Curmudgeon was recorded in early 1992 at a studio session that also brought out, I think, Over Guilt and a song called Return of the Rat. Side 2, you flip it over, you quote, Get Together, Come on People, Smile on your brothers, and then Drain You, which is about a song about the first flush of love, which is pretty much a first take, but if you take the multi-tracks down on Drain You, apparently you can hear overdubs of things like squeaky toys going and all that kind of stuff, which is fun. Lounge Act, which is probably the song I would take off the album. Stay Away, which obviously was originally called Pay to Play. And then On a Plane, and finally Something in the Way, the last song about underneath the bridge, the tarp has sprung a leak, and about apparently being homeless, which at the time it was recorded didn't happen to Kurt, but he may have said that he did, even though that wasn't probably the way that it really was. That's Nevermind, which is an incredible album and changed people's lives, but the period after the release of Nevermind is something which perhaps was almost more important. One of the other things I haven't mentioned about the album yet, and I think I should do, is when you listen to it, the drum production on this album is immaculate. Now apparently Axl Rose, when recording Chinese Democracy, would take a CD of Nevermind into the producers and go, I want that drum sound. Could have just hired Sound City Studios and recorded in there and done it that way, but maybe not. But that drum sound, and I think people forget how good the drums were, is that the drums actually, if you listen to the insistent rhythm, it takes a huge hint from things like Casey and the Sunshine Band, Cameo, Gap, Tommy Thompson, the drummer that plays on some of the like Young Americans era Bowie. That you listen to it and you got those drum thrills like dudum ba dudum ba dudum, and you kind of go, that's exactly what you'd have in Boogie on Down or Average White Band or something like that, but it's done in a rock context with buzzsaw guitars next to it, and suddenly there's kind of this funky huge swing which you just don't expect to get from a band like Nirvana at all. And I personally think that the weak link, or perhaps the most important link in any band, is their drummer. If they have a bad drummer, it doesn't matter how good everything else is, the songs can only go at the speed of the drummer, in the way that a car can only go as fast as its slowest part. And if the drummer isn't great, he holds the rest of the band back. You think about bands that have changed drummers or replaced drummers when drummers get old. That's really important thing, is to kind of just see how important it is to have a good drummer in a band, because if you don't have a good drummer in the band, and I'm trying not to say the name of a drummer who's played on a lot of records who I think is atrociously bad, but let's just say Pete Best wasn't even the best drummer in the Beatles, is another thing I'm thinking of, which I think we can all say if you listen to his audition tape, is he's not that great. But what Dave Grohl brought to the band was a fluid, dynamic disco element to the rhythms, where Chad was more rigid, more solid, had less flair and less swing. Whereas Chad Channing brought like quite a boxy approach to the drums. Don't get me talking about differences in drummers, because then I'll end up talking about U2, and that's a completely different conversation. What happened? Geffen thought this would sell 150,000 copies in total, 50,000 in the first pressing. It sold 30 million, which goes to show that record company executives know jack and shit about anything, really. I remember the first time I heard this album properly, just before it was released, which was on the Friday, which was, I think it was either it might have been my first Friday, actually, when I went to Leicester at University, 29th of September, 1991. And they played every track from Nevermind at the Friday night indie disco across the 4 hours that I was there, starting at 10, ending at 2 in the morning. I think the last track was Something in the Way. And every track sounded like a banger. All 12 tracks were played, and it was they thought that maybe it would top Goo, which sold 100,000. Maybe if they were lucky, they would get to a Pixies or Jane's Addiction level of success, and Nirvana just changed the world completely. It was an enormous kind of wave of change that just took over the world entirely. There was a couple of radio sessions that took place around about the same time. So 9th of November, they did a session for Mark Goodyear. and recorded Being a Sun, Aneurysm, Polly and Something in the Way. They did 4 tracks for VPRO, including Here She Comes Now and Where Did You Sleep Last Night. They did an American tour between the 27th and 31st of December, and then they played Australia, Japan and Hawaii in in January and February 1992. To coincide with that came the release of Hormoning. This is the Japanese CD of a 6-track EP featuring the 2 B-sides, Even in His Youth and Aneurysm, alongside the radio session covers of, I think, Turnaround by the Wipers, D7, Son of a Gun and Molly's Lips. This was heavily imported, heavily expensive, and you could get it for maybe £18–20, which was an astronomical amount of money then. Vinyl editions from Australia, which were sold in the hundreds, are hundreds and hundreds of pounds. Please, someone put it out again on vinyl and stop making it so bloody difficult to be a fan of the band. The Nirvana bootleg industry exploded everywhere, all over everyone's face, and it was quite big. So, for example, I've got a number of Nirvana bootleg releases. I've obviously shown you live at Reading. Here is the Seattle show from October the 31st, 1991. That's the single disc version of the radio broadcast. This is the double disc version of the Seattle radio broadcast from October the 31st, 1991. And that version was recorded to multitrack. It was filmed and it was released in 2011 on the 20th anniversary edition of Nevermind, but also as a standalone DVD. It's not been released as standalone vinyl in 2019. The CD is only available on the Nirvana Nevermind 20th anniversary Super Mega Deluxe box set. This is apparently the only Nirvana concert shot to 16mm film and in high def with 5.1 surround sound mixes. It's a fabulous show, but it is the band absolutely at the crest of a wave, playing somewhere that's far bigger, far smaller than they actually are at that point in time. Essential viewing. It's on YouTube, and it's also available as a standalone vinyl release called Live at the Paramount, or if you're me, you bought the bootleg beforehand. The bootleg features the unremixed radio broadcast, and the CD, DVD and LP editions feature a studio mixed version of that is not the radio broadcast. As I also said, the band played the California Del Mar Pavilion on December the 28th, 1991. Here is a bootleg LP of the radio broadcast of that show, which was recorded direct to 2-track by the band's sound engineer and then released and broadcast on the radio. They also played Rome, which is this Nirvana live unapproved Australian grey market CD. So this was sold in things like petrol stores and mom and pop stores and supermarkets as a discounted budget CD with no details of the venue, time or date. This show was recorded at Rome on I think the 19th of November 1991, was broadcast on television, which I do have and is also on YouTube, by the way, if you want to hear it. It's a great recording. I really recommend it. I think this version is resequenced out of the order they played at the gig. There was also another bootleg CD, because Nirvana were absolutely huge at this point. This is Nirvana live in Japan. This was recorded in Nagoya on the 16th of February 1992. It's not particularly good, but it was particularly cheap. And there was a whole host of other kind of compilation bootleg CDs that came out. It seems to me that the less Nirvana did, the bigger that they got. So the 1991 Super Deluxe edition of Nevermind features the 2 audio CDs that are on here. So Nevermind, the B-sides, Even in His Youth, Aneurysm, Curmudgeon, D7 Bit, and the live versions of Being a Sun, School, Drain You, Silver and Polly. The Smart Studio sessions, the recordings with Chad Channing, and then the boombox rehearsals of Smells Like Teen Spirit, verse, chorus, verse, Territorial Pissings, Lounge Act, Come As You Are, a track called Old Age, Something in the Way and On a Plane, alongside BBC session versions of Drain You and Something in the Way. If you want to think about a third CD which goes in with that, you need to look at the With the Lights Out box set released in 2004, which again is an essential piece of the Nirvana puzzle. This features 1 CD per album. CD 2 by the way, features demos of Opinion, Lithium, Being a Sun, Sliver, Where Did You Sleep Last Night, demos of Pay to Play, Here She Comes Now, Drain You, Aneurysm, a rehearsal version of Smells Like Teen Spirit, probably the one that's on the box set, of Nevermind, a rough mix of Breed, verse, chorus, verse, Old Age, Endless Nameless from the radio session, which presumably is Mark Goodyear, D7, and studio recordings of Oh the Guilt, Curmudgeon, Return of the Rat, and a Butch Vig early mix of Smells Like Teen Spirit. So almost all of which would comprise effectively a third disc of the Nevermind expanded edition. Because these had already come out in 2004, the 20th anniversary edition of Nevermind instead slots into it the DVD of Live at the Paramount and a CD of the audio soundtrack, and is thoroughly average in every respect. It's a good show, it's not amazing. The 30th anniversary version of Nevermind features this, and let's go through here whilst we can. They produced far too many copies of this, so instead of this being about £125, when I bought it, it was about £44, and for some reason it's got a postcard here. It's got the 6 discs in there, so that's the Nevermind album. CD2 is Live in Amsterdam, CD3 is Live at the Del Mar Pavilion, CD4 is live in Melbourne, Australia for Triple J, CD5 is live in Tokyo at the Nankano Sun Plaza on February the 19th, and then the Blu-ray is live in Amsterdam at the Netherlands, Paradiso, which is a gorgeous venue, November 25th, 1991. Now, unlike the bootlegs which I showed you previously, which are direct recordings of the radio broadcast of the 2 tracks, this, alongside the versions which are on the In Utero Super Mega box set, have been remixed by using AI to identify the individual frequencies which took place, and then to adjust the levels and make the balances sound better. Personally, I don't care for that nonsense enchilada, but so be it. Nevermind 30th edition also comes with an expensive book of photos, which really you don't need and you don't have to have, but if you want the box set, you have to have that. So there's photos of the bands when they had no money. If someone had said to them, hey guys, 30 years from now there's going to be a box set that's going to be about 5 live shows, and someone's going to want to sell it for £125, when the band themselves were probably earning about £125 a night, they'd laugh at you, and then they'd go back to their 99-cent hot dogs. It was a strange and unusual time. There's always a gap between a band becoming successful and a band becoming rich, and the gap in Nevermind was that 6-month period where the band were touring and before the money rolled right in as they sang at Reading. There's another couple of releases which happened around about the same time, but the strange thing for this is that the less the band did, the bigger that they got. So they had a American arena tour, which was originally provisionally booked between March and May 1992. They cancelled it. They went off the road, and they went effectively into recovery and to start again. They played some Euro shows in June and July 1992. They also then effectively brought the process down with a renegotiation of how things were working. So on the 7th of April, when the band were recording Curmudgeon, Return of the Rat, and what's the other track? Some In Utero demos, which went on with the Lights Out box set, which are here. There was a renegotiation, or more correctly, a hostile takeover of the band's royalty division, where 75% of the music and 100% of the lyrics were apparently reassigned to Kurt, and he wanted to retrospectively enforce that, or he would leave the group, which is fucking greedy, all things considered. Now, obviously, Chris and Dave did very well out of the band, but to say that Kurt wrote 75% of the music when he only played guitar and vocals seems to me to be really cheeky. He effectively co-opted 7/8 of the band's money towards himself, and left the other 2 to argue about the other 1/8. So kind of paid himself 6 times more. Now, whether that's true or not, that's what's been reported, and it's shitty, and I didn't like it at all. But faced with that, or the band splitting, what are you going to do? Are you going to take 100% or nothing, or 33% of Elvis, as the cliche goes? The period effectively came to an end with the Nirvana show at the Reading Festival in August 1992. 1 year on from the original show in the middle of the afternoon, released in 2009 as a CD, DVD, LP set. And here it is. It's a good show, not an amazing show, not their best one by a long stretch, but an important document in the band's existence and an important thing to have a document of. Bits of it were broadcast on the radio, by the way, so there was a different mix of the show that was broadcast on the radio compared to the version that was released. The version that was released was remixed after Kurt's death by, I can't even remember who it was now, sorry, but the original version was, I think, mixed by Miti Akaturi, who, if you know the name, is mixed a lot of radio broadcasts for the BBC. And bits from the Nirvana show were broadcast on ITV's Beat TV show in the middle of the night, hosted by Gary Crowley, the man that changed the face of many music tastes in the 90s. That brings Nevermind effectively to a close with one slight postscript. Classic Albums DVD, which features interviews with the remaining band members and extracts from the multi-tracks. Almost definitely on YouTube, well worth a listen. There are two things aside from this. The first one is the absence of any previously unreleased studio mixes, remixes, or anything like that for Nevermind was caused by the studio fire in 2008 in Hollywood, where the band's master tapes were left in poorly insulated and looked after conditions with inadequate fire extinguishers that wiped out and destroyed the huge numbers of thousands of unrepeatable, irreplicatable performances. Huge chunks of important and unique music history were destroyed by fuckwitted, short-sighted executives that decided not to put their master tapes in secure, temperature-controlled and safe environments that can put out a fire very quickly. All the outtakes, the extra versions, the extra mixes we never got to hear that hadn't been copied onto a cassette were lost forever by fuckwitted executives for a record company, and it is an eternal shame that that happened, because everything that you will hear in future from Nirvana is all the stuff that managed to escape in some backup form and wasn't burnt down in a fire in 2008. And I think some bands sued the label for millions of dollars as a result of their lost ability to exploit their own material because the label refused to take care of it, which I agree with entirely. It was a shocking state of affairs, and whichever asshole idiot decided that that was an acceptable way to treat the legacy of dozens of recording artists, not just Nirvana, by the way, R.E.M., Stevie Nicks, Fleetwood Mac, those type of people, is a fuckwit. Finally, I think I'm wrapping up. Nevermind is a really important record. It's very good. Looked at it from the prism of time, and 30 years later you look at it and you kind of go, was it all that? And well, the answer was, and I don't want to say you had to be there, but I think it's impossible to understate the revolutionary effect that it had upon the world at the time that it came out. For a brief period, Nirvana were the world's biggest band, and the band that effectively turned the head of the world in the direction of what was really happening in the world, when the world wanted to just look at girls and using its illusion. It changed music, and it gave a voice and a comfort to people that otherwise felt that the world was just ignoring them and treating their valid and justifiable concerns as mere whinges and complaints before they should suck it up and get back to work. Nevermind is an incredible album that added a maturity to rock which didn't really exist. Before this, it was idiots like Motley Crue effectively going, girls, boobs, bikinis, and Nirvana were a band that swept all of that aside and treated it as the detritus and nonsense that it surely and undoubtedly was. I'm still sore at Nirvana for cancelling the show that I never got to see, but I'm a grown-up. I can live with it, and I've certainly been doing a good job of that over the past few years. So 59 minutes of me monologuing about a record that's only 42 minutes long, or if you include Endless Nameless, 49 minutes. So take care of yourselves and each other. Stay beautiful. And I will see you soon. Look after yourselves and each other, and hopefully see you for another episode. Sayonara, bitches. Bye.